Hello, everybody, and welcome back to reviewing every single WrestleMania main event in history. Today, we're on episode 6 and WrestleMania 6, where we saw Hulk Hogan, the WWE Champion, take on the Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior, in the first ever WrestleMania main event title unification clash. The reviews for this match, before I've ever seen it before, as I've never watched this bout in my life, is a 3 3/4 by Dave Meltzer and a 7.52 on CageMatch.net. As I just said, I have never seen this match before, so I'll be giving you my raw reactions after I watch it. So this match really does continue the streak of every single WrestleMania main event getting better every single year. The new top 5 is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. One is theoretically last place, but whatever. This match, it's a bit slow at the beginning. It's not very interesting. It's mostly just story, but it really picks up around the middle and keeps that pace going roughly until the end. So let's look at my notes here. Yeah, there's no pre-match notations. There's really nothing interesting that happens pre-match, and the commentary team isn't actually that insane this time, even though it's the same group of guys. So at the beginning of the match, Hogan and Warrior, they're, pushing each other around, and, haha, I'm stronger than you, blah, 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 blah. Then they engage in what is a knuckle lock, but generally it's just considered it's this, when they put their hands together and they kind of push one another. Hogan wins the first time, then Warrior wins, and then Hogan wins again. And then they start bouncing off the ropes, and because these two are the kings of no-selling at this time, Hogan picks up Warrior, ooh-up, body slam. He turns around to celebrate, Warrior's automatically back up. They start running the ropes again for whatever reason. This time, Warrior slams Hogan. Body slam. Warrior stands back to celebrate. Hogan actually sells for once. And shockingly, throughout this whole match, Hogan doesn't do the, until the very end, which we will get to in a moment. Warrior beats him up outside the ring for a second and then throws him out there. And Hogan starts to sell like he's hurt his knee somehow. And commentary say that, he's probably dislocated his patella, which is the thing right under your kneecap. So he sells this for about a minute, and Warrior attacks it and kicks it a little bit. But somehow his patella just pops back in while he's just walking around, and Hogan retakes control. So Hogan, now that he has control and Warrior wasn't really paying attention, he's able to slam Warrior, one elbow drop, two elbow drops, 1-2, narrow kick out. Then, in a move I don't think I've literally ever seen Hulk Hogan do, he does a small package. It doesn't work. It only gets a 2. But I don't think I've ever seen someone that big that go for a small package, especially Hogan of all people. So it's impressive that those two guys are able to do that, but doesn't get the 3. Then there is literally nothing interesting for 10 minutes because Hogan just dominates. He slowly beats Warrior around the ring. Clothesline. Punches in the corner. Celebrate. Big clothesline in the corner. Woohoo. So, finally, after forever, Warrior retakes control for a moment, and they hit double clotheslines and both get knocked down. At 8 on the count, they're like dead up until 8. Like they have not moved an inch. At 8, Warrior does a taker and just sits up. Hogan's still down. By the count of 10, they're both up. And Warrior does his no-sell already. He used his super in 2K already. He's just, Hogan's punching him, bam, bam, bam. Nothing. Warrior comes back, takes control again. Throughout the match, the crowd is very 50-50. And they mention it even on commentary a couple times. How, if Warrior's got a big advantage on Hogan, they'll boo Warrior. But if Warrior's trying to escape Hogan, they'll cheer Warrior. And vice versa for Hogan. So it's a very interesting crowd in, I believe, Toronto. It's the Sky Dome. So it's very 50-50, and the crowd should be happy either way, really, no matter who wins. Then they do a bear hug, which I did mention was pretty common in these kinds of matches. They do a bear hug for 3 minutes long, and it's really boring. After what feels like forever, Hogan finally escapes the bear hug and does some sort of like jumping attack on Warrior. Warrior drops down and he hits the ref by accident. He's like, oh, shucks, that's a problem. Uh-oh. But Hogan is able to go back. I believe he performs a leg drop, gets the leg drop off, and there's no ref. He can't win. So Hogan just counts his own pin. Like, he just hits the mat like, oh, damn it, he's not here. 1, 2, 3. Like, you can't count the pin. You're not the ref. But he does that for whatever reason. And the commentary is like, oh, he should have won. But the ref is gone. Oh, no. So Hogan's like, oh, shucks. And he's trying to, like, awaken the referee. He's like, hey, man, you good? You good? This allows Warrior to take control, slam Hogan down, Warrior splash, 1, 2, but there's no ref again. So what does Warrior do? I'm going to give you a couple of options. Does the Warrior, A, realize the ref is down immediately, try and check on them? B, not go for any sort of pin and just wait? Or C, do the exact same thing as Hogan? If you guess C, you are correct. Warrior goes for the pin, realizes the ref isn't there, and just counts his own pin again. That's not how this works. He's going in for the cover. He's like, where's the ref? 1, 2, 3. And then the commentary team are like, oh, I guess this is a best 2 out of 3 falls match now. Oh, come on, guys. The ref's not down. Why is this the goofiest way to do it? But Warrior, after counting his own pin, goes over to the ref, says, hey, wake up, wake up. Goes back to pin Hogan without performing any more moves. Goes for the cover. The ref is awake this time, but he's kind of in that dazed state that some refs can be. They're like, oh, you're covering? 1, 2. Hogan just barely kicks out of that. Warrior's like, oh, man, this is a problem. So he picks up Hogan and absolutely beats the hell out of him for like 2 minutes. Throws him to the outside, throws him into the ring post, does a bunch of slams on the outside, just throws him around, beats him up in the corner, and finally, after just beating him for 2 minutes straight, he does his finishing sequence. Picks Hogan up, gorilla press, back from the ropes, warrior splash, slowly turns him over. Like, in this sense, this would kind of be an urgent thing. Like, oh man, I need to turn my opponent over so I can get the win because he might recover in time. But Warrior turns him over at this speed. Like, Warrior splash. And 1, 2, because the ref's still a little dazed at this point. Hogan kicks out. And I'm like, what? Huh? Are we burying this finish now? Hogan, here it is. I mentioned it. He hulks up. He's ready to go. Now it's his super. He saved his super, and he's ready to use it. He takes all these punches, no sells them, nothing. Picks Warrior up, slam onto the mat, bounces off the rope. Leg drop. No, Warrior moves. Hogan hits his butt right on the ground. He's dazed because he just hit his bum on the ground. Hits the ropes. Warrior splash. 1, 2, 3. Ding, 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 ding. Hogan has lost his first WrestleMania main event after having done the main event in 5 of them and appeared in all 6 at this point. And that was a really good match. Now, my description of it may not have been as good as it was, and I recommend you check it out. However, there was a lot of story in it. I liked the pacing. The actual wrestling wasn't that bad either. It wasn't as good as last year's actual wrestling, you could argue, because that had Randy Savage in it. No, that was 4 and 5. The pro wrestling aspect probably not as good, but the story was just there. The crowd was really good for this show, and overall, easily the best one. Hogan, he's just lost his match, so he's like, shucks. Rolls out of the ring. He's, that's unfortunate. Grabs the world title because that was what he just lost. Rolls back in the ring and just hands it off to Warrior, being a very babyface man. Gives it to the new champion. They hug it out and like, oh yeah, good job, man. You beat me fair and square. And bye. Hogan leaves and doesn't stay there to celebrate, shockingly. Warrior stays in the ring. He's got the IC title. He's got the World Heavyweight title. He celebrates. He's holding them both up. And for the first time in WrestleMania main event history, we get pyro. As Warrior, he has a little thing that gets set up in the middle of the ring. There's a bunch of little sparklers and pyro, and it really shows the importance of this moment to the Ultimate Warrior. And one more, there's a bunch of firework, and the show goes off the air with him celebrating with all his titles. This show and this main event, as I said, number one, now, the best one I've seen. You could argue 4 and 5, but at the moment, it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I hope you watch this match. I do think you really should, even not for the historical aspect and just for the pro wrestling and storytelling. Make sure you have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good dawn, good dusk, good whatever. Make sure you watch any former or future episodes of this series, and goodbye.